Alright YouTube, today we're going to be completely breaking down the current CDL weapon meta. We're going to be breaking down maps, hills, everything that you guys need to know going into that first major, what you're going to be seeing throughout this weekend. I haven't done one of these meta updates in a little bit, so I figured right before the major, I'd show you guys what you'll 100% be seeing going into this weekend with the current patch we are on. We obviously aren't going to be playing on the current live patch that'll be coming out tomorrow for season 2. So currently right now we have our Jackal, we have our aims. That's the only weapons that people are going to be using, but I'll dive deep into what teams and players are using in specific situations, so you guys know where you can pull out that sub or where you might want to pull out that AR. So we'll break it down map by map. Obviously there has been talks of a GA of the barrel for the submachine gun. Currently it's looking like definitely the better weapon in the current meta, but that's not going to happen until at least after the major, where talks might happen and a vote will probably occur. But going into this major is currently the same weapon meta that we've had for the past I would say month now. So let's start off here with Vault. Obviously Vault, you're going to be seeing a lot more SMGs, specifically because of how important the middle map control is. And you see all of this middle map over here is basically a subs heaven right now. So all of these gunfights over here, close quarters, SMG gunfights, you can take low vault routes, SMG gunfights, cat SMG gunfights, mid cut, anywhere in P1. So a lot of times where you see on P1s for vault hardpoint, and also whenever the A point is currently up for control, whenever that point is still up, you're seeing 3 subs, maybe even 4 subs some teams have pulled out, but definitely 3 subs. It's just so much more advantageous to have a sub in your hands in those close quarter gunfights all around this area. It's just so much better right now because of how much better the SMG is up close, and these gunfights are all made for that SMG. So if you're in those situations where P1's about to pop or the A cap has not gone through yet on control, definitely think about pulling out a 3rd sub, maybe even a 4th sub if your team suits it. So going to P2, obviously P2 over here, this is one, it's a little bit more standard, more 2-2, simply because of how important these front gunfights are. And especially at these palm headies, an AR is definitely better and more suitable, especially if you get a close spawn like over here in this corner. You're definitely going to be able to have a much better time using an AR. So it's definitely that regular 2-2 split. Obviously there's still a lot of important SMG gunfights, whether it be actually I'll use a pink color here just to note what's better for SMG, what's better for AR. So obviously SMG gunfights on the catwalk, anywhere short over here, obviously in the hill, and maybe a little bit to the back over here. But especially if you're holding with the back spawns and they're all flooding towards this front side, definitely having those 2-2 ARs, or even if you're trying to break from the side, these AR gunfights are very, very important. So definitely making sure you're probably having that regular 2-2 split on this hill as well. Moving on to the P3 and the B Street side of the map, you'll definitely see a lot more ARs. This is a hill where you'll probably see a majority ARs than subs. I would say most teams probably pull out a 3rd AR for this specific hill, simply because again, a lot of B Street gunfights are going to be taking place over here, and even if someone on the other team that's spawning towards ammo maybe takes a route, tries to flip out for the P4 and get through over here, another line of sight, that's big AR gunfights over here. So a lot of AR gunfights. Obviously you're still gonna have at least 1 and possibly 2 subs for these middle gunfights, maybe a cat gunfight here and there, but these B Street gunfights and this gunfight towards top art going this way is definitely preferred with the AR. So definitely look out for those longer range gunfights towards this side, and definitely in the control when the A cap has gone through and you're only looking at defending or attacking the B point. It's a very, very similar situation. So definitely look at possibly pulling out a 3rd AR for those type of situations for this side of the map. Moving on to the P4, similar to like the P2, there are going to be some SMG, dominated gunfights, obviously in the hill and obviously, towards the front here, towards the tree, but definitely have a mixture of SMGs, ARs, probably a 2-2 split, simply because once again, these type of long distance gunfights over here, very, very important. for the hill. So I would definitely say these outskirts hills are definitely a little bit more towards that AR favored. Let's move on into Skyline. Skyline starts off obviously with a P1 over here. I would definitely say 2-2 is definitely the current split that you'll see right now, because you're definitely going to have a lot of gunfights, obviously, in the hill and towards gym and towards low bed that are favored for those SMGs, but you're definitely still going to have a lot of different gunfights, whether it's piano, top bed, top cat over here, even watching through for the kitchen push through. A lot of very possible gunfights for ARs to dominate with. So definitely a good 2-2 split for this first hill, guaranteed. But then we'll move on into the P2. Obviously the P2, very, very close quarters. You're definitely going to be seeing 3 SMGs on this hill specifically. There's just so many different SMG dominated gunfights. Everything in the hill, even top cat over here when you're pushing out towards the front door, the zip, close piano, and even through the couches if you want to take a route from the kitchen. These little gunfights over here, and even if you want to make some sort of route through the couches into the back area, SMG dominated gunfight over here by the square, even at the top plat over here. I would say the main AR gunfights that you might be taking are if you end up pushing out the piano or end up pushing towards this top cat, and you can see anyone might be spawning up towards the bedside and trying catching them off guard. And obviously towards this white side, this is where you see a lot of the ARs play, holding down towards the right side of the kitchen, or even if you want, you can be playing some sort of cross over here from the right side if you're still at the piano side, but they're trying to force themselves to the right side. Definitely another AR gunfight over there. Most likely though, a lot of teams are using a third sub on this hill. So moving on into P3 now. Here once again, another 2-2 split. Similar to the P1, same type of gunfights, but you would see a little bit more towards obviously the kitchen, and these outer gunfights and inner gunfights with the AR are still very, very important. Even if you get up to P1, these gunfights are really important if you can lock down the P1 for the P3, because you can have these different angles for the hill for your team, help them out. But once again, SMGs still very, very good. Obviously anything inside the hill or anything towards gym, even if you're trying to take a top mid route, or even anything low bed, low U, anything around that area, definitely SMG dominated. So a good 2-2 split for this specific hill. And then obviously we'll move over to the other side, and it's basically symmetrical. We'll go into the P4 here, and obviously a lot of SMG dominated gunfights, anything in bed, anything in the closet or the front over here, stone steps. Even if you want to take an underground route, if you're trying to take that for the P2 during the P1, or trying to take that for the P4 during the P3, anything U over here as well. A lot of just SMG dominated gunfights, but we'll see a lot of AR gunfights, anything towards the right over here. If you're trying to play and hold the back from what would you call back inside over here, these type of gunfights definitely AR favored. Even if you wanted to push out, if you ended up pushing out top short or ended up pushing up towards the top cat over here, you can still have some good AR gunfights over here. But again, I would say a lot of the action is happening towards that low bed, low U front door area, and even top stone. So SMGs are still a very good choice here. So I would say most teams have been pulling out a third sub for the P4 here, and obviously a third sub for the P2. For both of those 3 subs, the other 2 ones are a good balance of both, a 2-2 regular split. We'll move into Hacienda over here. Obviously a fan favorite map coming back from BO4. P1 obviously starting off with the fountain. Very, very big to have a 2-2 split, because you want to dominate the low gunfights SMG wise, and the halls, which will be more AR gunfights. So dominating the halls is really important. If you can dominate the halls, you can dominate the time. So ARs are really, really important still at these top halls, but you're still going to probably opt for some SMG, related gunfights, whether it be lower towards the hill, if you want to push out secret, if you're trying to hold, the open cut over here, or even hold, somewhere top U, you can use the SMG as well for there. I would say definitely a 2-2 split for this type of hill. Moving on into the P2. Obviously the P2 Lambo Hill, again, a lot of AR dominated gunfights. If you're trying to hold the right over here, if you're trying to hold from the back Lion, if you're trying to hold on the Lambo, I would say definitely 2, maybe even possibly 3, depending on your situation and depending on what you're spawn up, or if you're trying to hold or break. Obviously there's a lot of favored gunfights for SMGs through the side door and through the lobby over here, but everything else seems to be a little bit more AR favored because of those longer lines of sight. So yeah, I would say maybe 2-2 split, maybe a third AR, especially if you're trying to hold the hill from the back over here. But definitely 2-2, maybe a third AR split for P2 over here. Moving on into P3 towards the fences. I think it's split right now with teams. Some teams have actually been pulling out a third sub to obviously dominate the top plat, top U, and even if they want to like push into tin. But there's still a lot of AR gunfights that you could be taking on the hill to help out your teams. But I would say I've seen teams run 3 subs. I've seen teams run 2-2 split. So either one of those definitely viable for the P3. And then moving on to the P4, this is where you'll see a little bit of a difference here. Definitely you'll be seeing 3 subs for the P4. Just a lot of SMG gunfights because of how the rock is placed, because of the importance of top open over here and the staircase. A lot of close quarter gunfights where you're talking about short over here, checkers over here, and any gunfights that you're going to be taking inside the hill are basically going to be a lot of SMG favored ones. I would say you'd always have a lockdown anchor AR that can hold on top of the rock or this outer lane. So definitely remain having that 1 AR for your team guaranteed, but 3 subs is definitely looking viable for this P4. I would say that's probably the only guaranteed 3 sub hill so far that I've been seeing that like all teams basically have been doing, but everything else kind of like 2-2 split, maybe a 3 AR for that P2 depending on your holding, breaking, whatever situation you're in. But that's the current lookout for Hacienda. Let's move on to protocol. And I almost forgot about control on this map. Obviously a new control map into the map pool. Definitely seeing a 2-2 split on the offense and the defense. It's just so important for a lot of these spawn traps to have some ARs on the map, so you're not obviously going to want to be pulling out so many SMGs, but AR spawn traps are very, very important, and you can do a lot of damage with them with an AR. So there are some really big gunfights that happen in top art, top plat over here, and even in the hallways towards the A side where that could be SMG dominated, and that's why I would still say 2-2 split is really important. But it's not like the AR is completely obsolete in control over here, but it is a really good balanced 2-2 split at the current moment that I'm seeing. Maybe it'll change to the major based on what teams want to do B side and A side, but it looks like just regular 2-2 split for now. All right, now we'll move on to protocol, starting at the P1 here. Definitely a regular 2-2 split. Long sight lines are still important for a lot of these gunfights. So ARs are really still important for this P1 specifically, but it is really important still to have top trips, top dubs control. So you definitely have ARs that will be sitting up top of here as well. So a lot of times you'll see them also posted up top trips, top dub, but you will see a lot of times people trying to take routes with subs, whether it's through the sidewalk over here, through the elbow, underground, even possibly to trying to take some type of route to kill these guys, top trips and top dubs. And those are definitely SMG favored gunfights. If you're going up through the spiral or if you're dropping down, pinching the zip this way, definitely a lot of SMG heavy impact that could be having in those buildings. So I would say definitely 2-2 split for now for that P1. Going to the P2, I would say kind of the same thing. A lot of SMG dominated gunfights, whether it be through underground here, if you're trying to take routes underground. A lot of SMG dominated gunfights on the hill, but it's still important to have those ARs, whether you have someone, let's say top trips. These type of gunfights, top mid, are really, really important. Obviously, someone holding the outer stairs or even breaking from the outer stairs, still, a lot of ARs. Top zip as well. So definitely 2-2 split for this. There's just so many important gunfights top middle over here. So I'd definitely say third sub is not always the case over here, and it is a regular 2-2 split for those first 2 hills. But moving on to the P3, this is where we'll see a little bit of a change. Obviously top trips, a lot of close quarters gunfights. Everything is inside over here, plus you have the spiral and anything that might be happening towards this backside of the map. Spawn kills happen, people pushing out of the hill trying to get kills. a lot of SMG favored gunfights. I would say, you know, definitely 3 subs on this hill is what the current meta is, simply because of how important trips control is and how you know, important some of these backside gunfights are. You'll definitely still see some ARs, whether it's, you know, holding the sidewalk, whether it's, you know, holding top trip, or even if it's in the hill holding the spiral over here. But again, a lot of different routes, different finesse gunfights happening inside this P3. So definitely 3 subs. You'll be seeing it most likely all weekend on Protocol P3. And then finally, for the P4 on this map, obviously underground hill, pretty hard to break. You're definitely going to be seeing at least 3 subs, maybe even 4 subs. I've been seeing some teams run 4 subs on this hill because look at it, you know, the structure of the hill. You have spiral, close quarters. You have zip, close quarters. You have all of the gunfights in the hill, close quarters. Pretty much the only non-close quarters gunfights that could be happening are from the, you know, the outside over here. So that's why you'll definitely see a split of some teams running 4 subs versus, you know, 3 subs, because that 1 AR will definitely be trying to hold a little bit more of that outside control for their team. So if you push out of the hill, definitely, you know, some AR gunfights could be happening over here. But if you're giving up outside control to stack a little bit more towards the hill, they once again have to break. You might be on the computers with a sub. You could be in the back corners with a sub. You could be pushed out in the spiral or the zip with a sub. So definitely at least 3 subs on the P4, maybe even 4. You'll see maybe a meta develop based on the weekend and how subs and ARs really are. You know, we had the K-Sun tournament, but it was very, very early in the game. Different meta of how the guns are, you know, are working. So all of this analysis is basically on the assumption that the meta is, you know, similar to what we're seeing in scrims and similar to what we're seeing on online matches. So take that obviously with a grain of salt and the caveat for this entire video. But I'm just giving you guys the breakdown of what we're seeing currently, and that's most likely what we're going to be seeing when we go to LAN as well. So then moving on to control on Protocol. Similar 2-2 split, but there are a lot of situations where I have seen people use a 3rd sub, especially if they're on the defensive side and they're constantly refilling trips, because once again, trips control so big, especially for the defense to get into, for the offense to keep control of. You know, if you have to break back into it, maybe you'll see a 3rd sub try and help their subs break into trips and reclaim that control of the trip side. But I would say most of the time you're seeing a 2-2 regular split. But again, I have seen sometimes if, you know, that trips gets overrun and you're trying to retake it, or, you know, if you are spawning up on the defensive side and your team already has trips and you're just refilling it for your team, I have seen a 3rd sub come, you know, be pulled out. So definitely don't be surprised if you see a 3rd sub in control, but most of the time I will say it's probably just going to be a regular 2-2 split here. And then lastly, for red card, I would say this is probably the most AR dominated of all the maps currently, simply because of the outer areas on the map. So going to P1, 2-2 split, maybe a 3rd AR if you really are trying to dominate that outside control for your team. But again, you still have to soak time, and time is inside, and it has to deal with a lot of different gunfights towards tickets. So definitely subs are still somewhat preferred towards the inside, but you do have those longer AR gunfights in the outside and on people, you know, watching over others on the hill. So if you're, you know, top red over here, or you're low red, low dubs, you're still going to be watching over big AR sight lines over there, and anything outside over here, definitely AR sight lines, especially if you're, you know, at the back hedges over here watching people try and cross and get into the hill, or, you know, they're spawning outside and trying to cross that way. But I would say probably a 2-2 split, maybe a 3rd AR. There's still a lot of, you know, SMG favored gunfights if you get pushed up to these hedges over here and to the doors, and once again on the P1 and the tickets. So a little bit of a split here. Going to the P2 here, this is when you'll probably see 3rd AR. Once again, a lot of AR sight lines over here. If you're picking up mid, AR sight lines, anything over here, stage, AR sight lines. Really the only dominated gunfights for subs are, you know, this sidewalk and in the hill, and if you have a, you know, someone trying to take a route to get you out of the P2 spawns, flip you out for the P3. So I would say definitely a 3rd AR is probably guaranteed on this hill. Moving on to the P3, slightly changes. It's the only 3 sub hill on this map, simply because we are in the stairwell of the P3. A lot of sub gunfights over here. You're definitely going to see still, once again, AR dominated gunfights on the outside of the map. But most of the time for these subs, you're going to be seeing a lot of SMG gunfights. If you're spawning up in the back here, hitting the hill. If you're spawning up the front hill, hitting the hill. If you're trying to take a route and cut off anyone that might be going up the SMGs, SMG gunfight. If you're trying to get out of the spawn for your team, take one of those routes, most likely a sub is going to be doing that. If you're trying to take a route and still have a gunfight towards, the middle map here, again, SMG dominated gunfights. So that's why you're seeing a lot more subs on this P3 for red card. That looks like the only 3 sub hill for this map currently. And then moving on to the stage hill P4, once again, you could most likely see a third AR being pulled out because of how important these cross gunfights are for these hills. Maybe you have, a sub or even an AR get time. They're holding time, but all of these gunfights are going to be on the outside. So definitely AR favored. Definitely going to be seeing 3, maybe even 4 possibly on this P4 stage hill. And then lastly, moving on into the P5 outside hill once again, but it looks like it's going to be a current 2-2 split, maybe third AR being pulled out over here simply because of all these gunfights on the outer side, from short to what we would call the stands or fillies, even from the dark stairs over here onto the hill. If you're on the hill, maybe you have a sub, maybe you have an AR. Again, depends on the situation, how you spawned up. If you hit ticket is going to be ran by subs, but everything else looks like it's a very good AR dominated gunfight because of these big sight lines towards the outside of the map towards P5. So looks like a little bit more AR dominated for this map specifically. Only real SMG dominated area of the map is going to be that P3 stairwell and really P1 ticket. So those are the different areas where you see SMG dominated gunfights. Everything else is basically AR heaven. But for the most part, it does look like the SMG is the more favored weapon at the current moment. That's definitely what you're going to be seeing going into this major 1 right here, and probably what you're seeing right now in ranked play as well, because always the the meta in ranked play kind of follows the meta that the pros are using. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys learned a little bit something from this, and maybe even use some of these situations to yourself going into your rank play. I would say always definitely look at the situation at hand. So if you spawn up long sight line, think of using an AR. If you spawn up in a place where you're probably going to be taking a close quarters gunfight, definitely be using the SMG. It's a little bit favored right now. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.